What have you learned while working your job that would shock the most people? Security guards aren't for security in most places. They're for an insurance discount. I worked at a Dwayne Reed, big pharmacy store, one summer and this woman stole a whole bunch of stuff and ran out the door. The security guard saw her and moved out of the way. He didn't even attempt to stop her. I worked in a kid zone for a few months, and it's usually the parents who break the rules and are a general pain to work with. Most of the kids were fine. How much stuff is shipped cross country via commercial airplanes that most passengers don't realize? Animals, dead bodies, mail, food, etc. Strangest thing I think I ever loaded was 44 pounds of black widow spiders. Move over, glitter bombs. There's a new prank in town. Microsoft Excel plays an uncomfortably large role in the world's decision-making process. The ACT and SAT sells students information for tens of millions of dollars every year. I work at a popular lingerie store. Always wash your panties bras before wearing. I can guarantee that someone else has worn them, fondled them, or possibly even purchased then returned them. Keep yourself clean, folks. Teachers talk crap about your kids. Most likely the same crap you say about your kids. My favorite was this old, male teacher I worked with. We were alone in a classroom when this girl walked in. She always had this smartass attitude and made our lives miserable. When she walked out of the room and closed the door, this teacher looks at me and says, "She is such a C." I've worked with attorneys for years. Domestic, criminal, civil, etc. And here's something I've learned that most people just wouldn't think about. Domestic cases, you see the best people with the worst behavior. Criminal cases, you see the worst people with the best behavior. I worked grocery in the South. A storm came in and screwed up the roads. The South isn't prepared for snow, so a few truckloads never came in. No one realizes that we're one natural disaster away from going hungry. Like, everyone just expects the food to be there always. I have worked a lot of jobs, but from my time as a plumber's assistant, people and businesses don't care for the most part about future potential problems. Many people would skimp out on paying maybe $50 more at the time of working to prevent a future $250 job. I understand some people are on budgets, since I am on a budget myself, but still, we would have to go back to these places to then fix these things when these people could have saved $200. Also, a surprising amount of people don't understand that you can't go to the restroom really fast and flush it when they've been told do not flush until we tell you to. The pipe is currently open, and it will come out on us. Some people, man. Former retail worker, used to work in the produce section. There is not actually a whole vegetable farm out the back. If the lettuces on show are crap, that means all the lettuces are crap. I worked at a vet. We do joke around when we are dealing with putting down animals. Everybody there loves animals and it's always sad, but when you deal with it so often you really need to find ways to lighten up the situation. A grotesque amount of money is wasted in the US oil industry simply because of incompetence. I've watched millions of dollars a day get thrown away because someone's friend fricked up and wasn't reprimanded. The same goes for poor logistics and lack of implementation of modern technology. It is 2016. Why the heck do I still receive a fax for $500,000 worth of tools with no phone call or email? I work with people that make nearly $100,000 a year that couldn't keep a job as a cashier at McDonald's. Global political and economic issues are real, and yes, they are driving down the industry, but on top of that I watch around 20% of the cost of exploration come from basic and undeniable incompetence. I'd bet 95% of people don't understand what their auto insurance policy does and doesn't cover. Have you ever read your policy jacket? Do you even know what that is? It's a wordy, legalese document that spells out exactly what is and isn't covered, and why they can deny coverage and or cancel you or decide not to renew you after your policy expires. I worked as a support at La Jasmine. I mainly answered technical questions, gave ratings to the models, monitored the web page and things like that. If you entered our room at the office, it was like everybody was watching P, and basically yes, we did that. I learned it was just another job. It never turned me on, and after 2 weeks it was completely normal. Before you ask, I'm still enjoying pee at home. It didn't ruin my hobby. From my time as a lifeguard, most are wildly unqualified to actually save or guard lives if you're at an indoor pool. Beaches tend to be a fair bit better though. There are people out there who are completely okay with not embarrassed by pooping their pants and just shaking it out onto the floor. They just keep on shopping. Everything that comes out of a body during embalming just goes right into the sewer system. Don't touch the wires, son. Even if the switch reads off, it's preferable to pull the plug. If you can't pull the plug, always double check that the current is off and stays that way. If you're smart, it only takes one shock for you to learn. It ain't funny. If you're me. 6. Source. I work in a lighting business. Sometimes I have to test assemble products. I work on a space mission. The amount of coding done by undergraduate students is overwhelming. If everyone knew the amount of time spent using Microsoft Office products, they would require us to plaster a giant M on the side of our launch vehicle. Seriously, my day is either spent in PowerPoint, Word, Excel, or, more often than I would like, in Project. Most people don't know what they are doing. The competent ones are those who fake confidence and learn quickly on the job. People are idiots, and stoners buy a lot more than just chips when they get the munchies. I once saw a very obviously high British tourist buy nothing but a 250ml carton of molasses. Veterinary specialists and their staff talk so much crap to your butthole animals. We know they're just scared, but when a husky has been barking through a cage at you for 6 hours, you kinda start to get aggravated. That law firms and insurance companies aren't entirely staffed by evil, corrupt, greedy corporate types looking to frick over people any chance they get. I mean, sure there are some that do, but there's a silent majority that just goes about their business without hitting the headlines. Large fashion retailers, for example, H&M, Zara, send orders to factories through proxies, called buyers, to partially reduce responsibility. They give a price to buyers and buyers give a lower price to the factories, which means the price difference is commission for the buyer. This encourages buyers to give work to cheaper, more dangerous factories, for example, factories with poor safety, child labor, for lower prices to gain extra commission. Last job. If you paid your tuition, you pass your class. Students and employees are nothing but numbers to the bosses. Private for-profit school. There are well over 1,000 gas explosions every year in the US. Half of those at my house after Chipotle. Worked at a well-respected Wall Street firm with very highly paid people. About 95% of them have no fricking idea what they are doing. I spend an equal amount of time on Reddit as I do working. The actual price of a product and how much it's marked up. Worked in retail for 2 years. What would shock most people, especially Redditors? There really aren't that many customers who are assholes. The colleagues who claim every customer is an or there are a lot of them, tend to be really miserable and grumpy assholes themselves. Just think about that the next time you see a Redditor comment anything like customers are assholes. Hotel kitchens are mostly disgusting. There are some exemptions, but this has proven mostly true. You start seeing food in a different way when you have to repair an industrial-sized deep fryer, have to pull it out, and the first thing you have to do is get a couple of buckets to get rid of the roundabout 30 liters of old fat. The wages that project managers and business analysts get paid. Last job at Harvard, it's policy, at least in their school of government, to curve grades to a B. It doesn't matter if you got a 58 on your midterm exam, you get a B. Several different things. No, Volkswagen really doesn't have a plan for the TDI situation yet. No, we can't track your car if it's stolen. No, not even if you're a cop. That was a fun call. I can give you a discount if I want, usually about 15% off. All depends on how you act towards me. Police officer here. What was shocking to me is that homeless people have giant tent cities and plywood structures, with paths and neighborhoods. tucked away in the woods behind your everyday businesses. Also, a lot of the homeless who panhandle on the corners literally have shifts and scheduled work hours, and even more surprising to me is that many of them often have thousands stored away in their banks. Work for a railroad. Trains take a long time to stop, especially loaded. I laugh every time I see people turn around at crossings when they see me coming, especially when I'm only 2 engines. People that try to outrun trains to crossings or get hit by them are doing me a favor, as I get 3 paid days off. If you do get hit by a train, your insurance will most likely drop you, since they get billed by all the trains you delayed. You know, the dirt that goes in to fill a grave well. It's not totally uncommon for it to crush the casket. More likely to happen in a cold place in winter, since the dirt can consist of large frozen chunks. It's also not uncommon for us to find people while digging a new hole. Sometimes it's that record keeping from 40 years ago was spotty and we accidentally dug their location. Almost exclusively cremations. And other times it's that the casket or urn wasn't centered in the hole and now we also aren't perfectly aligned. And sometimes it's because people moved down there. Not kidding. You don't realize how much crap the FDA allows in your food until you have worked in the consumer packaged good industry. I'm talking about acceptable levels of E. coli, mold, salmonella, actual crap, dead bugs, live bugs, bug eggs, metal. The list goes on. It's amazing that more people don't get sick. I work in the finance sector. The number of people in the finance sector who know nothing about finance and are about one cell away from being classed as an amoeba is quite shocking. The people making decisions mostly don't have a clue either. These are people responsible for hundreds of thousands of pounds, if not millions of pounds. On the plus side, it's nice knowing that idiots like that can get into these sort of positions. It makes me feel good about my career prospects. Oh man. I spent a few years in finance. Every single office had maybe one I do everything competent grunt putting all the books together, one master BS artist handling all the meetings, and everybody else from intern to senior management was coasting by on connections and ignorance. I took free courses on Allison.com and learned quite a bit about electrical conduit systems, tax accounting, and basic nutrition. My call center job had major downtime. People can be easily manipulated in accepting the most BS mistakes through steamrolling them and giving creative options. Also, companies get away with a lot. For example, I was working what I thought was my dream job in a certain car company Reddit can't stop salivating about. My job was handing over those cars to their new, enthusiastic, wide-eyed owners. The problem back then was, however, that the spacing of the cars was quite often off, and the paint was extremely soft. So soft, in fact, that if you took a closer look, you could see scratches all over. This gorgeous piece of engineering. People who saw that got their car detailed properly. The ones who didn't, well, sucked for them. The kicker, however, was a certain delivery issue. The high voltage adapter, which enabled the car to be charged overnight to its full range of 300 miles, was not available in sufficient numbers. Which meant that I had to convince people to accept that an overnight charge gave them only around 75 miles. Most could be steamrolled into accepting this. There was the possibility to buy a $700 cable to charge it on different, faster plugs, if they were available, which was rare back then. And hey, you got a $300 voucher. I am aware that delivery issues occur, but I was really disappointed that they didn't even call their customers and informed them about this issue. Especially older customers or really enthusiastic ones that just wanted their car got screwed. Considering how everybody still worships this company, if I had known that beforehand, I would have had a lot less issue with using manipulative tactics. Well, I suppose the other car companies are even worse. The whole industry looks very shady to me now. Males in the military are the gayest straight guys I have ever worked with. My normal day consists of talk and gestures gayer than AIDS. My brother's friend just got out of the Navy and said it was just a 24-hour gay joke. I'm a public defender. I don't even want to tell you guys the sum of the crap I've learned, but here's a relatively innocuous one. I have noticed that people are significantly more likely to survive gunshots than knife wounds. It's purely anecdotal, but it seems like GSWs have exponentially less blood loss. So unless you hit someone in the heart or head, which is actually pretty hard to do, not just because guns are much more difficult to accurately fire than the media represents, but because the skull will deflect bullets to a certain degree. A person is probably going to get to the hospital in time. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.